Hello everybody, I'm Liz, this is French Toast and Books, and today we are talking about my romance pet peeves. Things, tropes, things that happen in romance books that really bother me. So, last year when I was trying to get back into reading, because I've been slumpy for the last, we can say 2.5 years. It wasn't too bad until I got in my last trimester of my pregnancy and then having my newborn baby, and I struggled getting into reading a lot, and so I took to trying to read like romance stories, but not like traditionally published romance stories. I read actually a lot of romance stories off of the app called Dream Me, which, if you don't know what Dream Me is, it's kind of like Wattpad, but instead of like fan fiction primarily being its base, it's primarily like supernatural. A lot of them are werewolf stories, so a lot of this comes from those. And I'm not saying that reading untraditionally published books is bad, because I know for a fact that a lot of other romance, like even traditionally published romance books, have these problems. And so let's just dive in to things that irritate me with romance books or romance genre tropes specifically. Mind you, this is gonna get racy, so if you don't want to hear about like anatomy and other sexual things, this video is not for you. Sorry. Catch me in the next one. So first up, this is probably one of my most frustrating things. So if you don't know about me, I label myself as bisexual or pansexual depending upon my mood of the moment. And I'm also married to a man. I work in healthcare. I work in surgery specifically, so I see a lot of naked bodies. I struggle a lot reading romance books where there's a male love interest or a male main character, because these men in romance books always have a large peen. And I can tell you that there's not a whole lot of men being well endowed, and romance books paint it like it's a thing when it no. It's like the most unrealistic thing about romance books, where all male love interests, even if there's multiple love interests, like if it's a series, they all have large peens. I don't get it. Please write some realistic men body parts. Thank you. The next one is another thing when the woman is either the main character or the woman is a love interest, especially when it comes to like girl boy, man women, heterosexual relationships. The woman is usually virginal and like very naive. I'm sorry, but no, like, and then like they're having sex so quickly, so rapidly, or they, specifically with heterosexual couples, with the guy having a very large peen, like she just takes it all in, like immediately, like no foreplay, no blah blah blah, like, or if there is foreplay, it's like very, very brief. There's not a lot of talks about like pain, or if there is pain, it only hurts for a second, even though like there's this very well endowed guy and a virginal, like inexperienced, naive woman. It just doesn't feel very realistic to me or safe to like have that expectation thrown out there for women to always be like ready and can take on her guy's bits so quickly and without issues. And then we get into like specific words and phrases that are used in a lot of romance books. This one gives me the heebie-jeebies, and they explain the taste or the fluid involved, specifically with women they're down below. They call it the women's nectar. Especially when they're expressing about the way she tastes, and that just, no. Or they call, for men, they call it their essence, their like pre-cum or their cum, and that just, no. Or the famous spilling his seed deep inside her, like, y'all, I understand you're trying, and it works for some people, but it doesn't work for me. Sorry. Another one that feels very unrealistic, especially with these like virginal or naive women with men, or even like in homosexual relationships, where it's, even if it's like the guy's first, like he's been in heterosexual relationships this whole time, but it's now his first homosexual relationship, and they're doing their first blowjob. They're, they swallow the cum, like, every time, and they love the taste, and there's never a problem. This dives more into, like I said, naive or virginal love interests. They're always good at XYZ. Like, always their first try. There's no learning or teaching necessary. They just know what they're doing. They've got it. It sounds so unrealistic to me that they don't need any communication or coaching or teaching. They're just amazing at it. Their first try. I feel like I want deviances. I want differences in stories, like where not everything is 100% perfect and hunky-dory. I want there to be some type of communication or conflict around maybe sexual incompatibility. And so maybe that's the type of romance stories I need. I don't know. But I don't know. This is one, it's huge in specifically like supernatural romance stories and plots. Particularly, like I said, with the Dreamy app, there are a lot of werewolf, like, mates and bonds and stuff like that, where there's a mind possessiveness, and I'm like that with every romance story. Like, it doesn't matter what genre. If there's a romance plot and there's a mind possessiveness quality to the whole situation, it is a very big nope for me. Like, we have the Marissa Meyer Cinder series here. Like, I loved all the books, but Scarlet was my least favorite because of that. As soon as I hear like a love interest say mine or you're mine, it throws me off. I hate it. This is another one when it comes to, like I said, specifically like supernatural mate stories where there's growling or dissent at a love interest for interacting with anyone other than their love interest. It's especially bad in heterosexual girl-boy relationships where the girl's the main character and the boy is the primary offender of this. Like, you can't talk to this person because you're mine or you're my relationship, or like they're threatened by this other person existing, even if it's a family member or even if it's a best friend. And if it's another guy, it's even worse. Like, it's so sad that we have to write these possessive story plot lines and isolation of the main character to try to make these plots bloom. And I hate that. Like, come on. Like, let these people have friends and interact with others without repercussions. Like, what happened with trust in relationships? Trust your partner to do the right thing and to be the right person, and surround themselves with people who are good for them and appreciate them and, like, are supportive of them. Like, not everybody cheats, you know? And I don't want to hear I'm not worried about my partner, I'm worried about the person they're with. Like, let your partner come to that distinction and that determination for themselves. Because if you're going to push that on them, it's just going to push them away from you more. Or at least I hope it does. And, like, that possessiveness is not cute. Because it promotes, like, bi and pan erasure. Because most of the time these guys in this heterosexual relationship aren't worried about other women. They're only worried about other guys. And sorry to say this, honey, but like, that guy may not be the primary threat of your relationship. It might be this girl over here, or this non-binary person over here. You know, like, it, stop only getting mad at the masculine people. You know, like, there could be so many other threats. But again, like, if you love and trust and support this person you're with, you shouldn't have those jealousy issues. You shouldn't have that possessiveness issue where you can't have them hanging around other people. Another one is a lot of romance books, unless they're like written specifically by A-spec people, they really snub A-spec experiences. They have really poor phrasing around asexuals and like demisexuals, and it promotes a lot of ace-phobia, and it really irks me. Like, this is something I found very, very problematic, among other like super problematic things within the Twilight book series by Stephanie Meyer, is within the writing of Twilight, when Bella is talking to Esme, Esme specifically says, I thought something was wrong with Edward because he didn't want to be with anybody. He was content being alone and with family, and I didn't want him to be lonely. I wanted him to have a partner. And that's so damaging to people who are asexual and don't want a partner, don't want a relationship, because that's not for them. And there are a lot of people who, even though they're maybe asexual, might want a romantic partner or even just a lifelong partner. And that's great and that's fantastic, and they should have those experiences. But we shouldn't be writing the narrative that if somebody doesn't want a lifelong partner, something's wrong with them. And the last issue that I have, even though this is going to be a forever growing list as I find and read more romantic plots that I find may have something that irks me or I see as problematic. And this last one was specific to me scrolling through all of the romance books in not just the Dreamy app, but in my like Kindle and Nook libraries. I was really trying to find a polyamorous relationship that was not tied with BDSM. And I feel like a lot of polyamorous relationships have a BDSM component or are BDSM stories. And so I really need to find polyamorous relationships, polyamorous representation in stories that are not tied to BDSM, because I want to see the full, like, expansive facet of polyamorous relationships, because you don't have to be into kink, into BDSM to be polyamorous. Like, they're two separate things, and so I want to see that in romance books. So if you have that recommendation for me, you know where to put it in the comments. I need it, like, yesterday. So there we have my huge romance plot pet peeves in one grievance of a video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't deter you too much or piss you off with some of these pet peeves of mine in romance stories. Please let me know in the comments down below if you have a romance plot pet peeve. I would love to start a discussion in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember I love you. Bye!